The dense forest seemed alive, not just with movement but with a subtle awareness. Ethan Hale crouched behind a twisted trunk, watching as the neon-tipped vines swayed in patterns that did not match the wind. He had walked through countless alien worlds, but there was something different about this planet. It wasn't just the bioluminescence that made the undergrowth glow in soft shades of blue and green. It was the way the forest seemed to observe him, as if it could see his intentions. Ethan adjusted the straps of his pack and checked his scanner. The readouts were unusual. Gravity slightly stronger than Earth, oxygen levels perfect for human lungs, but the atmosphere was saturated with compounds that were irritating to most known species. He breathed carefully, letting the filter on his mask do the work. He had been sent here as a scout, to map the uncharted region and, if possible, gather samples for Earth's growing interstellar programs. The official files called it a high-risk, no-contact zone, but Ethan knew that caution alone would not keep him alive if the forest decided he did not belong. A rustle echoed from the canopy above, sharp and deliberate. Ethan froze, instinctively dropping low to the forest floor. He had learned long ago that in alien environments, noise could be fatal. Then a voice rang out, startling in its clarity. It was high-pitched, urgent, and spoke in broken galactic common. "Human, turn around, someone took my clothes." He scanned the tree line, expecting a trap or a wild predator disguised as a sentient species. Instead, a figure emerged, stepping between two massive ferns. She was unlike anything he had seen before. Her skin had a soft lavender hue, almost translucent where the light touched it. Her eyes were large, almond-shaped, and glowed faintly with a golden hue. Her limbs were longer and more flexible than a human's, yet her movements were deliberate and elegant, like a dancer navigating a dangerous stage. She carried herself with authority, but the tension in her posture betrayed her distress. Ethan slowly raised his hands, palms open, to show he meant no harm. He had learned from first contact protocols that showing fear or aggression could provoke an instant attack. He spoke softly, hoping the universal tones of calmness might translate. "I'm human. I mean no harm." "They took my clothes," she said, enunciating carefully as though expecting him to understand. Ethan's mind raced. Clothes. In most cases, the loss of attire might have meant embarrassment, but there was something about her tone that suggested significance beyond modesty. He realized the garments might be ceremonial, functional, or even biotechnological. In any case, this was not a standard diplomatic encounter. "I don't know who did it," Ethan said, keeping his voice calm. "But I can help." He stepped forward slowly, mindful of the soft pressure of the forest floor beneath him. The alien hesitated, her golden eyes scanning the surroundings. The air around them seemed to hum as if the forest itself was holding its breath. "No one helps humans," she said, her voice a mixture of accusation and surprise. "You are different." That approach often surprised more aggressive species. The alien, who Ethan soon learned was named Stherra, moved closer to him, her hands raised not in threat but in a gesture that suggested trust might be possible. "Follow, quickly," she said, turning and darting into the forest with astonishing speed. Her movements were fluid, almost blending with the patterns of the vines and moss that trailed behind her. Ethan followed, careful not to make noise that could alert the forest, or anything else that might be watching. The trees arched overhead, their glowing leaves forming a canopy that shifted with each step, almost like living stained glass. Strange flowers released mist that smelled faintly metallic, and the ground was covered with small, luminous spores that seemed to react to their weight. Every step Ethan took felt like stepping onto a living puzzle. After a few minutes, Stherra paused beside a narrow clearing. In the center, a group of creatures moved silently. They were small, no taller than a human knee, but their forms were strange and fluid, with limbs that ended in soft tendrils. Ethan's sensors identified them as something unknown, native to the forest. They were carrying the garments, handling them delicately as though aware of their importance. "They are called whisperkin," Stherra said, her voice low. "The forest chooses them." Yet the subtle glow from the whisperkin and the calm, deliberate way they moved suggested the forest would not act aggressively unless provoked. Ethan stepped closer, lowering his gaze and speaking in soft tones. He projected memories from his scanner, images of Earth, of humans building, creating, and surviving against overwhelming odds. It was not magic, it was proof of humanity's resilience and intelligence. The forest pulsed faintly in response, and the whisperkin froze, their limbs quivering. Stherra looked at him with wide eyes. You share memory. Stherra's relief was palpable, but she did not smile. Her people had always taught her that strength meant control, not trust. Ethan's calm actions were something she had never expected from a human. The forest seemed to acknowledge the exchange, softening the pressure in the air and dimming the glow of the spores. Ethan felt it in his bones. This world was alive in ways humans had only begun to understand. By respecting it rather than attempting to dominate it, he had passed a test. Stherra carefully retrieved her garments, holding them to her chest with reverence. "You, humans, surprise," she said finally. "You do not conquer, you survive. Survival is the first step to respect. That's how we live." Ethan glanced around, scanning for anomalies. "We move forward together," he said. "Step carefully, watch the forest. It knows us now, but only barely." The forest watched silently as they moved deeper into the alien world, aware that this encounter was only the beginning. As they disappeared into the dense foliage, Ethan thought about the reports he would later give. Other scouts might have turned away at the first sign of danger. Most species might have attacked the Whisperkin, trying to reclaim the garments by force. But humans had a different approach. Calm, adaptable, persistent, and capable of thinking beyond immediate survival. That would make all the difference in the galaxy. The forest whispered around them, a soft susurration that might have been wind or judgment. Ethan stepped lightly, each motion measured, each breath deliberate. He had no idea what lay ahead, but for the first time on this world, he felt confident. Humanity did not need to conquer everything to survive. Sometimes the greatest strength was patience, intelligence, and restraint. And in the heart of an alien forest, on a planet that refused to forgive error, that strength was already making humans stand out in ways no one had predicted. Ethan and Stherra moved carefully through the forest, their steps silent on the soft, glowing moss. The forest seemed aware of them, shifting subtly as they walked. Leaves swayed without wind, shadows moved against the light, and faint whispers of color rippled along the vines. Every creature, every plant, even the air itself seemed to pulse with a rhythm of its own. Ethan had seen strange worlds before, but none like this. Here, nature was not only alive, it was intelligent. Stherra kept her garments close, adjusting the intricate folds as she scanned the surroundings. Her eyes glimmered with unease. "The Whisperkin are not just thieves," she said. "They are messengers. The forest attests those who enter." They observed, adapted, and learned from every environment, and this forest was a puzzle that required intelligence and patience. "Then we must show the forest we are not threats," he said quietly. She glanced at him, skeptical. "Most species cannot survive here. They fail quickly." "We do not need to fight to survive," he said. "Sometimes it is enough to understand." Strange vines hung like threads, and Ethan noticed tiny, flickering shapes moving within them, creatures no larger than his hand, yet intelligent in their own way. The forest was watching. Suddenly, a soft rustle came from above. Both froze. Then a figure dropped silently in front of them. It was another alien, smaller than Stherra, but with the same golden eyes. Its skin shimmered in shades of blue and green, blending perfectly with the forest. "Intruders must leave," it said, its voice calm but commanding. Ethan took a careful step forward, raising his hands. "We do not wish to harm," he said. "We only wish to understand and return safely." Then, without warning, it vanished into the shadows, leaving only a faint shimmer behind. Stherra exhaled sharply. "They are the guardians of the path," she explained. "The forest will not allow passage lightly." He needed patience, observation, and subtle communication. That was humanity's strength. As they continued, the forest seemed to respond to their calm presence. Leaves stopped quivering, vines eased their sway, and the faint hum of the air became softer. They reached a small clearing where bioluminescent flowers surrounded a pool of water so clear it mirrored the sky above. The pool's surface rippled, though there was no wind. Ethan knelt to examine it. "These waters reflect intentions," Stherra said. "Not just truth, but desire and fear. We respect what is alive here." Shadows shifted, and dozens of Whisperkin emerged, their small, flexible limbs glimmering in the pool's light. They did not attack. Instead, they paused, tilting their heads as though examining the two intruders. Ethan held his position, showing no aggression, only observation and patience. One Whisperkin stepped forward, carrying an object Ethan recognized immediately, the garments that had been stolen from Stherra. The creature placed them gently at her feet. Sthera knelt to retrieve them, relief evident in her posture. "They understand," she murmured. "The forest understands. But it can recognize respect." The creatures seemed to sense the pattern and slowly retreated into the forest without incident. Sthera studied him closely. "You did not threaten them. You communicated without words. Most species do not survive here because they fight first, think later. You are different." They moved deeper into the forest, careful to avoid disturbing the fragile balance around them. Strange fungi glowed with internal light, releasing spores that shimmered like tiny stars. Each step required calculation. A misstep could trigger the forest's defenses, yet Ethan remained calm, methodical, and aware of every detail. Hours passed, and the forest became denser. The air grew heavy with mist, and strange noises echoed from the shadows, calls of creatures unseen, the rustle of wings too large to be birds, and whispers of movement through the undergrowth. Sthera occasionally glanced at him, uncertainty in her gaze. "How do you survive in places like this?" she asked. Ethan considered the question carefully. "By not underestimating anything. And by being patient. Humans do not always take the first chance to strike. We watch, we think, we adapt. That is how we survive, even when the odds are impossible. It is knowing when to act and when to wait. That is what has kept humanity alive in places no other species could endure." Ethan understood that their calm, deliberate presence had passed another unspoken test. A distant rumble interrupted the quiet. The ground trembled slightly, and a low, resonant hum filled the air. Sthera stiffened, her body tensing instinctively. "The forest reacts when there is danger," she said. "We must move carefully." Then we moved together. At the edge of a clearing, Ethan noticed a tree larger than any he had seen. Its trunk was wide enough to house a small building, and its branches stretched into the sky like fingers touching the stars. The tree's bark shimmered with faint bioluminescence, and its roots seemed to shift subtly beneath the surface. He sensed intelligence here, ancient, patient, and powerful. "This is a sentinel tree," Sthera whispered. "The oldest in this forest, it watches all who enter. Most species fail before they reach it. We only wish to understand and coexist." Here, that approach had earned them a rare chance, not just survival, but understanding. The forest whispered around them, alive in a way that defied simple description, and Ethan knew that their journey had only just begun. Beyond this ancient sentinel lay unknown dangers, untold mysteries, and challenges that would test every skill he had ever learned. Yet for the first time on this alien world, he felt that humans, and those who worked with them, could survive anywhere. The forest grew darker as Ethan and Sthera moved deeper. The canopy above thickened, letting only slivers of neon light pierce through. Every shadow seemed alive, twisting and stretching as if the trees themselves were testing their patience. The air was heavy with the scent of strange flowers, and faint glows from the ground lit their path like tiny stars. Despite the beauty, danger was everywhere. Ethan could feel it, the subtle shift of vines, the almost imperceptible movements of hidden creatures, and the forest's quiet pulse. Sthera moved beside him, her steps silent, her golden eyes scanning every detail. "The Whisperkin, they watched us closely," she said. "But now the forest tests us directly. It judges our instincts, our choices." Across the chasm, roots twisted together, forming a bridge-like structure, but it swayed slightly as though it might collapse under the weight of the smallest creature. "The forest controls even the paths," Sthera whispered. "One misstep, it could mean death. Each step counts." A gust of wind shook the branches above, and the glowing spores swirled around them, forming patterns that seemed almost deliberate. Ethan realized the forest was communicating through the light and movement of its life forms. He kept his focus, matching his steps to the rhythm of the pulses. Once across, they entered a grove filled with massive trees whose trunks were wider than buildings. Strange tendrils hung from the branches, and small creatures moved along the vines like dancers. Sthera stopped abruptly. "The sentinel of instinct lies ahead," she said. Her voice was tense, almost reverent. "No one passes it without proving themselves." He could sense the difference in the air, the way it pressed against him, testing his reactions, measuring his intent. This was not a physical challenge, but a mental and emotional one. Humans had survived by adapting to challenges that could not be overcome by strength alone. Here, patience and observation would be their weapons. A rustle in the undergrowth made them freeze. Shadows shifted, and a large, quadrupedal creature emerged. Its skin was covered in bark-like armor, and its eyes glowed faintly like lanterns. It moved deliberately toward them, and the ground vibrated with each step. Sthera's muscles tensed. It tests fear. Do not react with violence. He lowered his pack and spoke softly, projecting calm intent through his voice and body language. The creature stopped, tilting its head, analyzing him. Instead of attacking, it circled them, sniffing the air, and then retreated back into the shadows. "The forest recognizes restraint," Sthera murmured. "Few species understand it." Humans often survived by thinking, not by striking first. He realized that was exactly what the forest wanted to see, a species that could resist immediate aggression, that could act with intelligence and patience rather than brute force. They continued through the grove until they reached a massive clearing. At its center was a pool of water larger than a lake, its surface perfectly still and reflecting the strange alien sky. Ethan noticed that the water shimmered with colors not found in Earth's spectrum. Faint shapes moved beneath the surface, barely visible like creatures made entirely of light. "The trial of instinct begins here," Sthera said. "The forest tests courage, trust, and wisdom. One wrong move, and it will strike." The glowing stones shifted subtly beneath their feet, and Ethan realized they had to step in a specific sequence. It was a puzzle, but not one of intellect alone. Each movement required calm intent and awareness of the environment. As they advanced, faint whispers echoed around them. Not words, but emotions: fear, hesitation, curiosity. Ethan understood that the forest was probing their minds, measuring their reactions. He slowed his breathing, focusing on the rhythm of the light and the motion of the water. Each step became deliberate, synchronized with the subtle shifts in the environment. Suddenly, a shadow moved beneath the surface, larger than anything Ethan had expected. The water rippled violently, and the glowing creatures beneath darted in panic. Sthera gasped. "It tests instinct. Do not panic." "You are remarkable," Sthera said quietly. "The forest has not judged humans like this before." The forest was alive, intelligent, and aware, yet it allowed them passage because they had proven their restraint and intelligence. At the far side of the pool, they reached a platform of intertwined roots forming a spiral staircase leading upward into the trees. Ethan looked up. "We climb carefully, one step at a time." The forest judges intent as much as action. Each level revealed new wonders: branches wide enough to support small structures, glowing flowers that emitted pulses of light in response to movement, and creatures that hovered silently in the air, observing. At the top, they reached a massive platform suspended between the tallest trees. From here, the entire forest stretched out below, a sea of glowing light and shadow. Sthera gazed down in awe. The forest is alive, it knows everything. From the shadows, a massive, serpentine creature emerged, its body coiling through the branches with fluid grace. Its eyes glowed like lanterns, and its scales shimmered in the bioluminescent light. Sthera froze. "The sentinel it tests again. Do not panic." The creature circled them, its movements precise, almost ritualistic. Then, with a soft hiss, it lowered its head in acknowledgement and coiled away, retreating into the shadows. "The forest respects restraint," Sthera said softly. "It recognizes strength in ways we do not." Sometimes the greatest power is patience, understanding, and awareness. Sthera looked at Ethan with newfound respect. "Your people are different. You survive by thinking, not fighting." Ethan felt a sense of quiet triumph. They had passed the trial of instinct, earning not just survival, but the forest's tentative trust. Beyond this platform lay even greater challenges: unknown creatures, ancient mechanisms hidden in the trees, and tests the forest had yet to reveal. But for now, Ethan knew one thing. Humanity had proven that it could survive where others failed, not by strength alone, but by intelligence, restraint, and understanding. And in the heart of this alien forest, the first steps of an extraordinary journey were already underway. The forest had settled into a calm rhythm after the trial of instinct. Ethan and Sthera stood on the massive platform, their breath steady, their minds alert. The glow of the plants and creatures around them bathed the scene in soft neon light. For a moment, it seemed that the forest had accepted them, but peace on this planet was always temporary. From the far edge of the trees, a faint hum grew louder. Ethan's sensors picked it up first, a low-frequency vibration that pulsed through the ground. "Something is coming," he said, his voice calm but firm. "And it's not native to this forest." The drones were sleek, fast, and armed with scanning and suppression technology. To the forest, they were a threat. To the drones, the forest was just another obstacle, something to be neutralized. They won't just leave, Ethan said. We have to handle this carefully. The forest will react violently if provoked. Perhaps we have a chance. The creatures of the forest moved, some curling around the edges of the clearing, others rising into the air like silent guardians. Ethan stepped forward, his hands raised, not in aggression, but in a signal of calm. We do not fight, he called, projecting his voice with a translation device. We seek understanding. Stand down. The drones adjusted, but the forest anticipated each move, pushing them back with subtle force. Sthera's eyes widened. The forest protects us because of you. It trusts humans. The forest twisted in response, moving roots and branches with impossible speed, blocking the pulses and forcing the drones back. But Ethan knew that force alone could not win here. The drones were too advanced, too relentless. He needed a strategy that used both human intelligence and the forest's cooperation. He activated his portable communicator, broadcasting a human protocol designed for emergencies. The message was simple but effective. Cease aggression or face escalation with mutual destruction. The drones' AI systems processed it, but the forest interfered with the signals, creating a feedback loop the drones could not override. Their movements became jerky, erratic as they struggled to respond. Sthera stared at Ethan, disbelief and admiration in her eyes. You do not fight, and yet you control the situation. We must show it our intent is aligned with survival, not destruction. Ethan pointed toward a narrow corridor of trees leading deeper into the forest. We move through there. It's the only path where the forest can control the engagement fully. Follow me and stay calm. The moment we panic, we fail. Vines bent and twisted to create barriers, and the glowing plants flashed in patterns that disoriented the drone's sensors. Ethan's calm movements and clear intent allowed the forest to act in precise coordination with him. As they advanced, one drone broke formation and tried to force its way into the corridor. The forest reacted immediately. Roots shot from the ground, curling around the drone, lifting it just out of reach of Ethan and Sthera. Bioluminescent spores filled the air, disrupting the drone's optics. Ethan moved closer, projecting a signal of calm authority through his device. The drone hesitated, then descended slightly, allowing them to pass. Sthera's voice was filled with awe. Your people are incredible. You survive not by brute force, but by thought. The forest respects that. Here, the drones could not approach without risking total failure. Ethan took a deep breath and projected another signal, stronger and more precise, synchronizing with the forest's pulse. The drones wavered, systems flickering, and then one by one, they retreated, unable to overcome the combined intelligence of human strategy and the forest's instinct. Sthera's relief was evident. She adjusted her garments carefully, her golden eyes still shining with amazement. You did not fight, yet you protected us. Most species would be destroyed in moments. Force can win battles, but intelligence and patience win survival. Sthera looked at Ethan, her expression thoughtful. Your people are different. They adapt, they survive where others fail. The Empire underestimates humans. We survive by observing, understanding, and using our intelligence. Beyond it lay the Empire's forces, and beyond them, worlds that humans had never faced. Ethan understood that this victory was temporary, but it was meaningful. It was proof that humans could survive where no other species could, not through aggression, but through strategy, intelligence, and respect for the rules of the environment. Sthera approached him, her golden eyes reflecting the glow of the forest. You have taught me a new way to survive, not by control, but by understanding. I will remember this. It is about awareness, restraint, and careful action. Ethan and Sthera rested briefly, their minds alert for any remaining threats. The Empire's drones might regroup, other dangers might appear, but for now they were safe. Humanity had proven that intelligence and patience could overcome even the most advanced technology in an environment designed to destroy intruders. Sthera finally smiled faintly, a rare expression for her people. Your people do not fight like others. They survive because they think. The forest respects that. I respect that. Force can win battles, but intelligence wins survival. As they prepared to move forward, Ethan felt a sense of determination. The Empire might underestimate humans, but that underestimation would be its greatest mistake. Humans did not need to dominate. They survived. They adapted. They outthought threats that others could not. And in this alien forest, on a planet that tested every instinct, humanity had proven it was capable of surviving and thriving against impossible odds. The forest was quiet now, but the calm was only temporary. Ethan and Sthera moved carefully through the dense undergrowth, aware that the Empire's drones could return at any moment. The glow of the plants and fungi lit their path, casting eerie shadows that shifted with every step. Every movement, every sound was amplified by the forest, but it no longer felt threatening. It was as if the forest had accepted them, acknowledging their intelligence, restraint, and understanding. Sthera adjusted her garments, still glowing faintly under the bioluminescent canopy. "The forest has tested us. It trusts humans more than most species it encounters," she said. Her voice carried awe and wonder. "I never thought I would see this." Towering trees surrounded a crystalline lake that reflected the alien sky above, filled with streaks of glowing clouds and distant stars. Whisperkin moved along the edges of the lake, watching silently. Their earlier behavior had been cautious, almost suspicious, but now they moved freely, signaling a form of approval. Sthera knelt beside the water, dipping her fingers into its glowing depths. "This place, it is ancient. It remembers all who pass through. Most fail. Humans do not. It tests patience, courage, and intelligence. We passed. That is why we are still alive." This was the forest acknowledging them, recognizing their journey and perhaps offering guidance for what lay ahead. Sthera rose as well, her golden eyes reflecting the glowing water. "The Empire does not understand humans," she said quietly. "They rely on force, on control. Your people survive by thought, by adaptability. The forest respects that." "I respect that." They had regrouped, adapting their approach, but they were still cautious. The forest's influence slowed their advance, confusing their sensors and disrupting their targeting. Yet Ethan knew they could not stay hidden forever. The Empire would not give up so easily. He turned to Sthera. "We need a plan. The drones will test us again, and this time they may bring reinforcements. But we do not have to fight them directly. The forest can help, and so can we. We survive by being smarter, not stronger." The Whisperkin moved around them, assisting quietly, guiding drones away from critical paths, and reinforcing the perception that the forest was defending itself rather than the intruders. When the first drone descended aggressively, the forest reacted instantly. Vines shot upward, creating barriers. Glowing spores swirled, disorienting the drone's sensors. Ethan remained calm, adjusting signals and guiding the forest's response. The drone attempted to fire, but the energy dissipated harmlessly into the glowing plants and twisting roots. Within moments, the drone wavered, then retreated, unable to comprehend the coordination it faced. Sthera watched, astonished. "You humans do not fight, yet you control everything. The Empire underestimates this." The drone's systems faltered in the face of a combination they could not calculate, human strategy and the forest's living intelligence working as one. Eventually, the drones withdrew entirely, their signals flickering and retreating beyond the forest's reach. The clearing fell silent once more. Ethan exhaled, his calm demeanor never breaking, while Sthera's shoulders relaxed for the first time in hours. "The forest respects you," she said softly. "Not because of strength, but because of thought, intelligence, restraint, patience. Your people are extraordinary. Force alone is rarely enough. Understanding is what ensures life continues. It is about awareness, cleverness, and determination. That is what makes humans human." Humans and aliens alike were now recognized as worthy travelers in this living ecosystem. Sthera stepped beside Ethan. "The Empire will see humans differently after this. The forest has acknowledged them, and you have shown them the meaning of survival beyond force." Humanity was only beginning to explore them, only beginning to prove itself among the stars. Yet here, on this single forested planet, they had survived challenges no other species had endured. They had turned a living world into an ally, faced advanced imperial technology, and emerged intact. "The universe will test us again," Ethan said quietly. "But every test teaches us. Every challenge we survive makes us stronger. That is humanity's advantage: adaptability, intelligence, and awareness." The forest pulsed faintly under his touch, as if acknowledging the partnership. "This is just one world. There are others, but the principle is the same: understand, adapt, respect, survive. That is how humans endure." It was a moment of quiet triumph, a testament to patience, intelligence, and the enduring spirit of humanity. In the coming days, they would leave the forest. The Empire might challenge them again. Other species might underestimate humanity as they always did. But the forest had already recorded their actions. It had judged them worthy. And that judgment would ripple through this world and beyond. Ethan felt a sense of certainty. Humanity's survival did not rely on weapons alone, nor on dominance. It relied on thought, patience, courage, and understanding. In every world, under every test, those qualities ensured that humans endured. That was why they would always survive where others failed. Stherra adjusted her garments one last time, looking at Ethan with a mixture of awe and respect. I will speak of this to my people. Humans are extraordinary. The forest recognizes them. I recognize them. Humanity survives because we respect what we cannot control and adapt to what challenges us. And that endurance, born of intelligence, thoughtfulness, and restraint, was why humanity would continue to survive and shape the galaxy in ways no one had anticipated. As the first light of alien dawn touched the treetops, Ethan and Stherra began to move forward, leaving the clearing and its judgment behind. They walked together, no longer merely intruders in the forest, but recognized participants in a living world that had tested them and deemed them worthy. The universe stretched out before them, full of dangers, mysteries, and challenges. Yet one truth remained clear. Humans would survive not through dominance, but through intelligence, patience, and the enduring ability to adapt to anything the cosmos could throw at them. And on this distant, glowing world, humanity's legend had already begun.